There is a reason you didn't scroll past this. There is a reason your eyes paused, your breath slowed, and something deep inside you whispered, "Pay attention." This moment, this exact second is not random. It is not coincidence. It is not algorithm. It is alignment. And right now, heaven is interrupting your routine to speak directly into your life. He is speaking, not in noise, not in chaos, but through this message, steady, deliberate, unmistakable. And you feel it, don't you? Because lately, something has been off. Not enough to explain to others, but enough to disturb your peace. Enough to make you pause in the middle of your day and wonder, why do I feel like something is about to happen? You've tried to ignore it. You've tried to rationalize it. You've told yourself it's just stress, just overthinking, just another passing mood. But it's not. It's deeper than that. It's spiritual. There has been a subtle shift around you, in your energy, in your environment, even in the way people respond to you. Conversations feel different. Silence feels louder. Certain things that once felt normal now feel disconnected. And you can't quite explain why. This is why. Because heaven has begun to move. And when heaven moves, the sensitive feel it first. You were not meant to stumble upon this message. You were summoned to it, called into awareness before something unfolds. Because what is coming next is not small. It carries weight, it carries purpose, and it requires you to be awake. Archangel Michael stands at the edge of this moment, not as a distant symbol, but as a present force. A protector, a messenger, a warrior assigned to those who are about to walk through transition. And his voice carries both urgency and assurance. He says, "Do not fear what happens next." But here's what makes that statement so powerful. You don't say "do not fear" unless something is coming that could trigger fear. And that's where your spirit has been trying to warn you. There is an unfolding ahead. A shift that may not look comfortable at first. Something that may challenge you what you thought was stable. Something that may feel unfamiliar, unexpected, even unsettling. And yet, it is not sent to break you. It is sent to position you. But right now, before anything reveals itself fully, heaven is doing something critical. It is preparing your perception. Because if you misunderstand what's coming, you might react in fear instead of faith. And that reaction could delay what was meant to elevate you. So this message comes as a divine interruption, not to scare you, but to steady you. Not to overwhelm you, but to anchor you. Think about the last few days, maybe even the last few weeks. The restlessness, the strange pull to withdraw, the sudden clarity about certain people, the quiet realization that something in your life can't continue the way it has been. Those were not random emotions. Those were signals. Signals that something is shifting beneath the surface. And you, out of many, were sensitive enough to feel it. That's why you're here. Because not everyone would recognize this moment. Not everyone would pause long enough to receive this kind of message. What you did. And that says something about your spirit. It says something about your awareness. It says something about your connection to truth. You are not being left in the dark. You are being prepared in advance. Because what is coming next will require a different version of you. A more grounded you. A more discerning you. A more spiritually anchored you. And the preparation starts now. Right here. In this moment. So don't dismiss this feeling. Don't brush it aside. Don't talk yourself out of what your spirit is clearly picking up. This is your confirmation. Something is coming. But you are not unprotected. You are not unprepared. and you are certainly not alone. Archangel Michael has already gone ahead of you, and what he is about to reveal next will explain everything you've been sensing. Stay with this message, because the next part will uncover what has been targeting your fear and why. Type "I am ready" in the comments if you feel this message is for you. Blessing code 2020 is now activated. You've been trying to explain it, haven't you? Trying to put into words something that doesn't quite fit into logic. Something that doesn't show up clearly on the surface, yet refuses to leave your awareness. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. But it's persistent. It lingers in the background of your thoughts, in the quiet moments when everything else fades away. That feeling, that subtle, unshakable sense that something is different. And the truth is, you're not imagining it. What you've been sensing is real. There has been a shift. Not just around you, but within you. It started quietly. Almost unnoticed. A change in how you respond to things. Situations that used to trigger you no longer carry the same weight. Conversations that once felt normal now feel draining or out of alignment. You found yourself pulling back, not out of weakness, but out of awareness. You're observing more, speaking less, feeling deeper. And at times, you questioned it. You wondered if you were overthinking, if you were becoming distant, if something was wrong with you because you no longer fit into spaces that once felt familiar. But what you didn't realize is this: you're not losing connection, you're gaining clarity. Because when a spiritual shift begins, it doesn't announce itself with noise. It reveals itself through discomfort, through misalignment, through a quiet inner voice that keeps nudging you, saying, "This no longer belongs." That's what you've been experiencing. The separation before the elevation. And it hasn't just been internal. Look at what's been happening externally. People acting differently around you. Energy shifting in conversations. Unexpected tension where there used to be ease. Or even the opposite. Sudden silence from those who once had constant access to you. It feels strange. Almost like the ground beneath your life is subtly rearranging itself. And in a way it is. Because when heaven begins to reposition you, everything that is not aligned starts to feel uncomfortable. Not because it's suddenly wrong, but because you are no longer the same. You've outgrown something. And growth doesn't always feel like expansion. Sometimes it feels like isolation. Sometimes it feels like confusion. Sometimes it feels like you're standing in between two versions of your life. One that's ending, and one that hasn't fully revealed itself yet. That in-between space can feel unsettling. But it is sacred. Because that's where transformation happens. That's where your spirit is being recalibrated, adjusted, and prepared for what's next. You may have noticed your thoughts becoming deeper, more reflective. You're questioning things you once accepted without hesitation. You're seeing patterns you didn't notice before. You're sensing intentions behind words, not just the words themselves. This is not paranoia. This is discernment awakening. And with that awakening comes a shift in how you experience the world. You begin to feel things more intensely. Not emotionally, but spiritually. You walk into a room and immediately sense the atmosphere. You pick up on subtle changes in tone, energy, and presence. And sometimes, it overwhelms you because you don't fully understand why. But there is a reason. Your awareness is expanding. And expansion always comes with adjustment. That's why you've been feeling tired in ways that rest doesn't fix. Why your mind has been active even in silence. Why certain days feel heavier than others without any clear explanation. It's not physical. It's spiritual. Something is shifting in your frequency, in your alignment, in your position. And whenever that happens, there is a period of transition, a period where things feel unclear, uncertain, even unstable. But that instability is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is changing. And change, especially divine change, often disrupts before it reveals. That's why Archangel Michael is stepping in now, because he knows that this stage, this exact phase you're in, is where many people become confused, where they misinterpret the shift as something negative, where they try to go back to what felt comfortable, simply because the unknown feels unfamiliar. But you cannot go back, because what you're feeling is not a warning to retreat. It is a signal to prepare. You are being moved, positioned, aligned, even if you can't see the full picture yet, even if it feels like pieces are being removed without immediate replacement, even if it seems like things are falling apart instead of coming together. This is not chaos. This is orchestration. Every shift you feel, every change you notice, every moment of discomfort, it is all part of a greater movement that is unfolding around you and within you at the same time. And here is what you must hold on to in this moment. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are not disconnected. You are in transition. And transition always feels uncertain before it becomes clear. So do not resist what you're feeling. Do not suppress it. Do not try to force things back to the way they were, because the way they were cannot support where you are going. This shift is real, and it is necessary. And in the next part, you will understand why fear has been trying to attach itself to this shift, and what you must do to break its influence completely. Type "I trust the shift" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3030 is now surrounding you. Listen carefully, because this is where everything begins to make sense. What you have been feeling, what has been creeping into your thoughts, what has been trying to wrap itself around your emotions, it is not you. It is not your personality changing. It is not you becoming weak. It is not you losing control. No. What you are experiencing is something far more strategic. Fear is being targeted at you, but it is not coming from you. And there is a difference. Because if the fear were truly yours, it would feel natural. It would feel justified. It would feel like a direct response to something clearly happening in front of you. But this feels different, doesn't it? It comes suddenly. It appears without full explanation. It lingers even when you try to reason your way out of it. It attaches itself to what-if thoughts, to imagined outcomes, to scenarios that have not even happened. That is not coincidence. That is influence. You see, when a shift begins, especially a divine one, there is always a counterforce that tries to interrupt it. Not by stopping the event itself, but by controlling your perception of it. Because if your perception is controlled, your reaction will follow. And if your reaction is driven by fear, then you will misstep, hesitate, or retreat at the exact moment you were meant to move forward. That is the strategy. Fear is not trying to destroy you directly. It is trying to distort how you see what is coming next. And it has been subtle. It hasn't come in loud, overwhelming waves. It has come in small thoughts, quiet doubts, fleeting concerns that seem harmless at first but slowly begin to build. Thoughts like, what if something goes wrong? Or what if I'm not ready for this? Or even, what if I lose something important? And the more you entertain those thoughts, the more real they begin to feel. But here is the truth Archangel Michael is revealing to you right now. Fear is not a reflection of your reality. It is a projection meant to distract you from your alignment. It is not showing you what will happen. It is trying to shape how you react before anything even happens. And that is why this message is urgent. Because if you can recognize fear for what it is, you remove its power immediately. Think about it. Has anything actually happened yet to justify the level of concern you've been feeling? Has there been a clear, undeniable event that confirms your worst thoughts? Or has it mostly been internal? A buildup of anticipation, tension, and uncertainty without full clarity? That is your answer. Fear thrives in the unknown. It feeds on the spaces where you don't yet have full understanding. And right now, you are in that space, the space between what was and what is about to be revealed, which makes you vulnerable to misinterpreting the moment. But you must not. Because what is coming next is not designed to harm you. It is designed to elevate you. And fear knows that. That is why it is working overtime right now. Not to stop what is coming, because it cannot stop it, but to make you respond to it incorrectly when it arrives. If you react with panic, you disrupt your own clarity. If you react with doubt, you delay your own movement. If you react with fear, you disconnect from the very guidance that was sent to protect you. You see the pattern. Fear is not the event. Fear is the interference. And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop fighting the feeling as if it defines you, and you start observing it as something external trying to influence you. You begin to pause instead of react. You begin to question the thought instead of accepting it. You begin to anchor yourself in truth instead of assumption. And that is where your power returns. Archangel Michael is not telling you do not fear as a casual suggestion. He is giving you a command rooted in spiritual awareness. Because he sees what you cannot yet fully see. He knows what is unfolding behind the scenes. And he understands that your greatest challenge in this moment is not what is coming. It is how you interpret what is coming. You must separate yourself from the fear. Not by denying it exists, but by refusing to let it lead. You are not your anxious thoughts. You are not your sudden doubts. You are not the tension you feel in uncertain moments. You are the observer of those things. And more importantly, you are protected beyond them. Right now, in this exact phase, your role is not to figure everything out. Your role is to remain steady, to stay grounded, to trust that what you are sensing is preparation, not danger. Because the moment you stop feeding fear, it loses its voice. And when fear loses its voice, clarity begins to speak. And clarity is what you will need for what comes next. So when the thought appears, and it will, you must respond differently this time. You must not follow it down the path of what if. You must bring yourself back to the truth. I am guided. I am protected. I am prepared. This is how you break the cycle. This is how you step out of the influence. And this is how you align yourself with what heaven is actually doing in your life right now. Because the truth is nothing is coming to harm you. Something is coming to change you. And fear is the only thing trying to convince you otherwise. Type I reject fear in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 4040 is now activated around your mind and spirit. As this message settles into your spirit, understand this: every time you choose courage over fear, you are lighting a path not just for yourself, but for countless others still trapped in uncertainty. This mission is not about a channel, it is about awakening souls who are standing at the edge of their breakthrough. The Lord declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And in this moment, your seed becomes a spark of light in someone else's darkness. I feel led to say this clearly: when you act in faith, even through something as simple as a super thanks or a PayPal offering, you are stepping into divine alignment with this message. Your giving is not a transaction. It is a prophetic act that multiplies truth, spreads light, and unlocks movement in the spirit. The PayPal link is waiting in the description, and the QR code is right there on your screen, not by chance, but by divine design. As you sow, heaven responds. As you release, heaven opens. Step into this moment now and be part of what God is doing through this message. There is something you must understand now, before anything unfolds, before anything becomes visible, before anything shifts in a way you can physically point to and say, "This is it." Because if you misunderstand this next phase, you will mislabel what is happening. And if you mislabel it, you may resist the very thing that was sent to elevate you. What is coming next is not meant to destroy you, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it looks unfamiliar, even if it challenges something you thought was secure. It is not destruction. It is transformation. But transformation rarely arrives in a form that feels easy. It rarely announces itself with comfort. Most of the time, it enters quietly and begins by disrupting what can no longer remain the same. It starts by shifting things out of place. It begins by exposing what was hidden, by revealing what was ignored, by moving what was stagnant. And when that happens, the natural response is to feel unsettled, because you were used to what was, even if it wasn't perfect, even if it wasn't aligned, even if it was slowly draining you without you fully realizing it. There was still a sense of familiarity, and familiarity creates a false sense of security. So when that familiarity begins to break, it can feel like loss. But listen carefully. Not everything that feels like loss is actually loss. Sometimes it is release. Sometimes it is removal. Sometimes it is divine intervention stepping in to take away what you were never meant to carry into your next season. And this is where many people become confused. They assume that if something is leaving, something is going wrong. But what if something is leaving because something greater is about to arrive? What if what feels like disruption is actually preparation? What if what feels like things falling apart is actually things falling into alignment? You must shift your perspective now, because what is coming next may not look like what you expected. It may not match the image you had in your mind. It may not follow the timeline you created for yourself. But that does not mean it is wrong. It means it is higher. Archangel Michael is speaking with clarity in this moment, saying, "Do not measure what is coming by your comfort. Measure it by your calling. Because your calling was never designed to keep you comfortable. It was designed to move you, to stretch you, to take you into spaces where you must rely on something greater than what you can control. And that is exactly what this next phase is about. You are being moved into a position where control is no longer the foundation. Trust is. And trust does not grow in certainty. It grows in the unknown. That is why this moment feels the way it does. That is why things are shifting before you fully understand them. Because you are being trained to stand firm even when you cannot see the full picture. You are being strengthened to remain steady even when the environment around you begins to change. And yes, there may be moments where you question what is happening. Moments where you feel like things are moving too fast or not making sense. Moments where you wonder if you are ready. But readiness is not about having all the answers. It is about being willing to move forward without them. Because what is coming next is not waiting for you to feel completely prepared. It is responding to your willingness to trust. And here is what you must hold on to above everything else. You are not walking into this unprotected. You are not stepping into this alone. There is divine order surrounding this transition. There is guidance already positioned ahead of you. There is protection already assigned to what is unfolding in your life. Even if you cannot see it yet, even if you cannot feel it fully, is there, working in ways you do not yet understand. This is not a random shift. This is not chaos. This is orchestration. Every piece that is moving, every change that is happening, every moment of uncertainty, it is all part of a greater design that is aligning you with something that could not reach you where you were. You had to be moved. You had to be shifted. You had to be repositioned. And that process is what you are experiencing right now. So do not fear what happens next, even if it surprises you, even if it stretches you, even if it requires you to let go of something you thought you needed. Because what you are stepping into is not meant to harm you. It is meant to elevate you beyond where you have been. And the only thing that could interfere with that elevation is fear, which is why this message came before the moment, to prepare your spirit, to anchor your perception, to remind you that what is coming is not your enemy. It is your transition. And in the next part, you will understand why your reaction in that moment will determine everything that follows. Type "I trust what is coming" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 5050 is now covering your path forward. And now listen closely, because this is where everything becomes intensely personal. This is not just about what is coming next. This is about how you will meet it. This is about the exact moment when something shifts in your reality and your first instinct rises to the surface. That moment, that single, powerful moment, will determine more than you realize. Archangel Michael is not just warning you about the event. He is warning you about your reaction. Because your reaction is not small. It is not insignificant. It is not just an emotional response that fades away. Your reaction is a doorway. It is a decision point. It is the place where you either align with what heaven is doing or resist it without even realizing. And this is where many get it wrong. They prepare for the event, but they do not prepare for themselves. They think the challenge is what happens externally, but the true challenge is internal. It is how quickly fear tries to rise. It is how naturally doubt tries to speak. It is how easily the mind begins to question what the spirit already knows. You must understand this clearly. When the moment arrives, it may not look dramatic. It may not come with warning signs or loud announcements. It may be subtle. A conversation, a decision, a sudden change, a shift in direction that you did not expect. And in that moment, your mind will try to catch up, your emotions will try to interpret, and your spirit will already know. But the question is, which one will you follow? Because if you follow your immediate emotional reaction, you may move too quickly. You may speak too soon. You may retreat when you were meant to remain. You may question when you were meant to trust. And that is exactly what the warning is about. Archangel Michael is saying, slow down your reaction so you can align with revelation. Because revelation does not shout over panic. It speaks through stillness. And if you do not create that stillness within yourself, you will miss the clarity that is being given to you in real time. Think about how you have reacted in the past when something unexpected happened. Think about the moments where you felt pressure, where you felt uncertain, where you felt like you needed to act immediately. Did those reactions always lead you to peace? Did they always bring clarity? Or did they sometimes create more confusion, more tension, more questions? This is your opportunity to do it differently. This is your moment to break that pattern. Because what is coming next is not meant to be rushed through. It is meant to be received with awareness. You must pause. You must breathe. You must allow yourself to step back internally before stepping forward externally. Because your first reaction is not always your highest truth. Your first reaction is often conditioned by past experiences, by fear, by what you have been through before. But this moment is not your past. This moment is something new. And if you respond to it with old patterns, you will misinterpret it. That is why stillness is not weakness. Stillness is strategy. Stillness is where you regain control over your perception. Stillness is where you allow divine guidance to rise above emotional noise. And in that stillness, something powerful happens. You begin to see clearly. You begin to understand what is actually unfolding. You begin to recognize that what seemed confusing at first is actually precise. And what seemed uncertain is actually intentional. That what felt sudden is actually aligned. But you cannot access that clarity if you react too quickly. You cannot hear that guidance if your mind is racing. You cannot feel that peace if you allow fear to take the lead. This is why Archangel Michael is stepping in now, before the moment arrives, to prepare you for yourself. Because you are ready for what is coming. But you must also be ready to handle it correctly. Not emotionally, not impulsively, but spiritually. You must become aware of your own tendencies. The urge to overthink, the desire to control, the habit of jumping to conclusions. And in that awareness, you must choose differently this time. You must choose to trust before you understand. You must choose to stay grounded before you react. You must choose to listen inwardly before you respond outwardly. This is how you stay aligned. This is how you move with what heaven is doing instead of against it. Because the moment will come. And when it does, it will test your awareness, not your strength, not your ability, but your awareness. Your ability to recognize that you are not being thrown into chaos, you are being guided through change. And if you can hold that truth in the moment everything shifts, your reaction becomes calm. Your mind becomes clear. Your spirit becomes steady. And suddenly, what could have been confusing becomes purposeful. What could have been overwhelming becomes manageable. What could have caused fear becomes confirmation. So do not rush. Do not react without awareness. Do not let your emotions decide what your spirit already understands. Because your reaction is not just a response. It is a key. And how you use it will determine what opens next. Type "I choose stillness" in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 6060 is now activating clarity within you. There is something you must see now, not with your physical eyes, but with your awareness. Because what you have been feeling is not just internal, and it is not just coincidence. There is a hidden layer to everything unfolding around you right now. A layer that does not operate in plain sight, yet influences what you feel, what you think, and even how situations begin to form in your life. This is the hidden battle. Not the kind you can point to. Not the kind you can easily explain to someone else. But the kind you sense when the atmosphere shifts without warning. The kind you feel when a normal moment suddenly carries weight. The kind you recognize when something small feels unusually significant, and you cannot explain why. This battle has been present longer than you realize. You felt it in moments of unexplained tension, and sudden waves of doubt that didn't match your situation. In the way certain interactions seemed to carry more pressure than they should have. In the strange timing of events, things happening just as you were about to move forward, just as you were about to feel clear, just as you were about to step into something new. That is not random. That is resistance. Because whenever you are on the edge of a shift, a real shift, a meaningful one, there is always resistance that rises to meet it. Not to destroy you, but to challenge your awareness. To see if you will recognize what is happening, or if you will become entangled in it. And this is where the hidden battle becomes important. Because if you do not recognize it, you will personalize it. You will think it is about you. You will think people are simply acting differently for no reason. You will think situations are becoming complicated by chance. You will think your own thoughts are turning against you. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to carry something that was never yours to carry. But once you see it for what it is, everything changes. This is not just emotional. This is not just circumstantial. This is spiritual movement. There are forces at play that operate beyond what you can physically observe. Influences that attempt to create confusion, hesitation, distraction. Not because you are weak, but because you are aware. Not because you are vulnerable, but because you are positioned for something more. And that positioning creates pressure. You may have noticed that things feel intensified lately. Small situations feel heavier. Minor decisions feel more significant. Even your thoughts seem louder, more persistent, more demanding of your attention. That is not because you are losing control. It is because the environment around you is shifting. And when environments shift, everything within them responds. But here is what you must understand above all else. You are not unprotected in this battle. You are not exposed to it without defense. You are not navigating this blindly. There is protection surrounding you that you cannot see, but you can feel if you become still enough. There is guidance moving ahead of you, adjusting paths, redirecting outcomes, preventing what you do not even know to avoid. Archangel Michael is not watching from a distance. He is present within this moment, and his role is not just to warn you, but to shield you. But protection does not remove awareness. It requires participation. You must remain conscious of what you are engaging with, conscious of what you are allowing into your thoughts, conscious of what you are reacting to and how deeply you are letting it affect you. Because the hidden battle gains influence through attention. The more you focus on confusion, the stronger it feels. The more you dwell on doubt, the louder it becomes. The more you engage with tension, the more it expands. But the moment you step back, the moment you observe instead of absorb, the moment you choose not to internalize what is happening around you, something shifts immediately. You regain control. You step out of the current and onto solid ground. And from that position, you begin to see clearly again. This is why awareness is your greatest advantage right now. Not force, not control. Awareness. Because awareness allows you to move through this battle without being consumed by it. You begin to recognize patterns instead of reacting to them. You begin to sense when something is trying to pull your attention away from your center. You begin to feel when something is not aligned, even if it looks normal on the surface. And instead of fighting everything, you simply adjust. You step back. You remain steady. You refuse to give your energy to what is not meant to carry you forward. This is how you navigate the hidden battle. Not by confronting everything you feel, but by choosing what deserves your response. Because not everything that demands your attention deserves your energy. And right now, your energy is too important to be scattered. You are being positioned. You are being prepared. You are being guided through something that requires clarity, not confusion. And the only way to maintain that clarity is to recognize that what is happening around you is not entirely visible, but it is entirely manageable when you remain grounded. So do not be overwhelmed by what you cannot see. Do not be distracted by what you cannot explain. Because you are not alone in this. You are supported. You are protected. And you are being led through this moment with precision. And in the next part, you will understand why everything that has felt like delay or difficulty was never punishment, but positioning for something far greater. Type ISE clearly in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 7070 is now strengthening your awareness. There is a thought that has tried to settle quietly in the back of your mind, and you may not have even fully acknowledged it. It doesn't always come as a clear sentence, but you felt it in moments of frustration, in moments of delay, in moments when things didn't move the way you expected. It sounds like this: why is this happening to me? Or even deeper, did I do something wrong? And that question, that quiet assumption, is what must be corrected right now. Because what you have been experiencing is not punishment. You are not being held back because you failed. You are not being delayed because you are unworthy. You are not being challenged because you are off track. You are being positioned. Every moment that felt like a setback, every situation that didn't unfold the way you planned, every door that didn't open when you expected it to, it was not rejection. It was redirection. It was alignment taking place in a way that you could not fully see at the time. And this is where perspective becomes everything. Because when you believe you are being punished, you begin to shrink. You begin to question your worth. You begin to hesitate. You begin to second-guess decisions that were actually guiding you forward. But when you understand that you are being positioned, something shifts within you. You begin to trust the process. You begin to see movement where you once saw stagnation. You begin to recognize that even in stillness, something is actively being arranged on your behalf. Think about it carefully. If everything had worked out exactly the way you wanted, exactly when you wanted it, would you be who you are right now? Would you have the awareness you carry now? Would you have the discernment you've developed? Would you have noticed what you now clearly see? Or would you have moved forward too quickly, without understanding what needed to be understood first? This is the truth that is difficult to accept in the moment, but undeniable in hindsight. Timing is not always about readiness in action. Sometimes it is about readiness and awareness. And you were being prepared. Prepared to see more clearly. Prepared to recognize what is aligned and what is not. Prepared to move with intention instead of impulse. Because where you are going next requires a different level of perception, a different level of patience, a different level of internal stability, and that cannot be built in comfort alone. It is built in moments where you have to wait, where you have to observe, where you have to trust without immediate confirmation. Yes, those moments felt difficult. Yes, there were times you questioned whether things would ever shift. Yes, there were moments where it felt like you were standing still while everything else moved forward. But you were not standing still. You were being placed into the exact position where what is meant for you can now reach you. Because if you had moved earlier, you might have missed it. If things had opened sooner, you might not have recognized their value. If everything had aligned before you were internally ready, you might have mishandled what you were given. This is not delay. This is precision. Everything that has happened, even the parts that felt confusing, even the parts that felt frustrating, has been guiding you into alignment with what is coming next. And what is coming next requires you to stand in a different way. Not with urgency, not with fear, but with grounded certainty. You are no longer in the phase of searching. You are in the phase of receiving. But receiving requires space. And sometimes that space is created by removing what no longer fits. That is why certain things had to fall away. That is why certain paths had to close. That is why certain situations did not continue the way you expected. It was not because you were losing something valuable. It was because you were being cleared for something greater. And now, as you stand in this moment, everything is beginning to make more sense. Not fully yet, but enough for you to feel that something is aligning. Enough for you to recognize that the pattern was not random. Enough for you to trust that what is unfolding now has been in motion for longer than you realized. This is the shift from confusion to clarity, from questioning to understanding, from feeling held back to realizing you were being held in place for the right moment, and that moment is approaching. So do not look back at what didn't happen with regret. Do not question what didn't work out. Do not carry the weight of thinking you missed something. You did not miss anything. You were guided through everything. Every delay had direction. Every pause had purpose. Every redirection had intention. And now, you are exactly where you need to be, ready for what is next. And in the next part, you will understand what you must do in the exact moment fear tries to return, because it will try, and how your response will secure your alignment moving forward. Type "I am aligned" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 8080 is now anchoring your path. There will be a moment, and you must be ready for it. Not because it will be overwhelming, not because it will be dramatic, but because it will be subtle, quiet, almost familiar. It will not announce itself as fear. It will come disguised as logic, as caution, as a reasonable thought that seems to make sense at first glance. And if you are not aware, you will follow it without questioning it. This is the moment Archangel Michael is warning you about. Because even after everything you have understood, even after everything you have felt shifting, fear will attempt to return. Not in the same way, not as strongly, but strategically. It will come at the exact point where you are about to move forward. It will wait until you are close to clarity, close to decision, close to stepping into what has been prepared for you. And then it will whisper, "What if this is a mistake? What if you're not seeing this clearly? What if you should wait a little longer?" And in that moment, everything will depend on how you respond. Not what you feel, but how you respond. Because feeling fear is not failure. Responding to it incorrectly is where misalignment begins. You must understand this deeply. Fear will speak, but you are not required to agree. You are not required to follow. You are not required to give it authority. And this is where your power becomes active. Because this time, you are not reacting unconsciously. This time, you are aware. This time, you recognize the pattern. This time, you understand that the voice of fear is not the voice of truth. So instead of absorbing it, instead of letting it expand, instead of allowing it to shape your next step, you pause. You interrupt it. You answer it differently. And this is the key. You do not fight fear with emotion. You replace it with truth. When the thought arises, you do not entertain it. You do not analyze it endlessly. You do not allow it to create scenarios that have not happened. You bring yourself back to center. You remind yourself of what you already know. I am guided. I am protected. I am not being led into something harmful. This is not denial. This is alignment. Because fear feeds on uncertainty. But truth anchors you in certainty, even when you cannot see the full outcome. And in that moment, something shifts. The thought loses its weight. The tension begins to dissolve. The urgency to retreat begins to fade. And clarity returns. Not because the situation changed, but because you did not allow fear to distort your perception of it. This is what Archangel Michael is teaching you now. Not how to eliminate fear completely, but how to remove its influence over your decisions. Because fear only has power when it is believed. The moment you stop believing it, it loses its direction, and you regain yours. This is why your response matters so much, because this next phase of your life will require you to move forward even when everything is not fully explained. It will require you to trust what you feel internally, even when externally things are still unfolding. It will require you to act with clarity, not hesitation, and fear will try to interrupt that. But now you are ready. You will not be caught off guard. You will not be pulled back into old patterns of doubt and delay. You will not second-guess what you already recognize as aligned, because you understand something now that you did not fully understand before. Fear is not a signal to stop. It is a test of your awareness, a moment that asks you, will you return to old thinking, or will you stand in what you now know? And your answer will define your movement forward. So when that moment comes, and it will, you must remain steady. You must not rush to escape the discomfort. You must not allow the mind to spiral into uncertainty. You must stand firm in what has already been revealed to you, because what is ahead of you is not meant to be delayed. It is meant to be entered, and your response will open that door. So answer differently this time. Stand differently this time. Trust differently this time, because everything you need to move forward has already been placed within you, and nothing that is truly aligned with your path will require you to fear it. Type "I stand in truth" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9000 Mighty is now strengthening your spirit. As this truth settles into your spirit, understand this: every time you choose truth over fear, you are sowing light into a world that is still walking in confusion. This message is not just reaching you, it is meant to reach others who are standing at the same threshold, waiting for clarity. The word declares, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days," and right now, your giving becomes that seed of light flowing into lives you may never see, but heaven records every impact. I feel led to say this clearly. When you support through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description, you are not funding content. You are fueling a divine assignment to awaken souls. This is your moment to act. Not later, not eventually, but now. The PayPal link is already placed in the description, and the QR code is right there on your screen, waiting for your obedience. As you release, heaven responds. As you sow, heaven multiplies. Step into this moment now and become part of what God is doing through this message. There is a timing to everything, and right now, you are standing at the edge of a very specific window. This is not symbolic. This is not vague. This is precise. The next 72 hours carry a weight that is different from what you have experienced recently. There is movement already unfolding, quietly, beneath the surface, and soon it will begin to reveal itself in ways you cannot ignore. You must understand this clearly. This is not a period to drift. This is not a time to become distracted. This is not a moment to fall back into old patterns of doubt or delay. This is a sacred window, and sacred windows do not remain open indefinitely. They appear. They invite. They require response. And then they move. That is why you are being prepared now, before anything fully manifests, because awareness must come before action. If you wait until everything is obvious, you may miss the precision of what is being aligned for you in real time. In the next 72 hours, something will shift. It may come through a conversation that feels unusually significant. It may come through a realization that suddenly becomes clear without effort. It may come through a decision that you feel compelled to make, even if you cannot fully explain why. It may even come through something unexpected, a disruption, a change in plan, a redirection that initially feels inconvenient. But you must not misinterpret it. Because what appears on the surface is not the full story. This is why your awareness must remain sharp. Because in this window, subtlety will carry meaning. Small moments will hold direction. And if you are present enough, you will recognize it immediately. You will feel it. That quiet inner confirmation that says, this is it. But if you are distracted, if you are consumed by unnecessary noise, if you are pulled back into overthinking or emotional reaction, you may overlook what is being placed directly in front of you. This is why Archangel Michael is emphasizing timing, not to create pressure, but to create focus. Because timing is not about urgency and panic. It is about precision and awareness. You are not being rushed. You are being aligned. And alignment requires presence. You must be fully here. Not lost in what already happened. Not consumed by what might happen later. But grounded in what is happening now. Because the next step will not come with a loud announcement. It will come quietly. And your ability to recognize it will depend on your stillness. This is not about doing more. It is about being more aware, being more attentive to what you feel, being more conscious of what resonates and what does not, being more intentional about what you choose to engage with and what you choose to step back from. Because in this window, everything matters. Not in a way that creates anxiety, but in a way that calls for presence. You may notice that certain things begin to fall into place quickly. Connections may form. Clarity may come without struggle. Situations that once felt confusing may subtly make sense. And at the same time, other things may fall away just as quickly. Do not hold on to what is leaving. Do not question why it is happening now. Because this is part of the movement. This is part of the clearing. This is part of the alignment that is making space for what is meant to enter. And you must trust the timing of it. Even if it feels fast. Even if it feels unexpected. Even if it does not match your previous expectations. Because what is unfolding now has been in motion longer than you realize. This is not sudden. It is revealed. And you are stepping into the moment where what was hidden becomes visible. But visibility requires readiness. And readiness is not about control. It is about awareness. So over the next 72 hours, you must remain grounded. Do not let your mind run ahead. Do not create scenarios that have not happened. Do not allow fear to reinterpret what is actually aligned. Stay centered. Stay observant. Stay steady. Because everything you need to see will be shown. Everything you need to understand will become clear. Everything you need to do will feel natural when the moment arrives. You are not being asked to force anything. You are being asked to recognize. And recognition will come when you are fully present. This is your window. This is your moment of alignment. And what you do within it will carry forward into everything that comes next. So do not miss it by being distracted. Do not overlook it by being uncertain. Do not delay it by questioning what your spirit already understands. Because the next 72 hours are not ordinary. They are intentional. And you are meant to move through them with clarity, not confusion. With awareness, not hesitation. With trust, not fear. And in the next part, you will understand why not everyone around you will recognize what is happening, and why that is part of your path, not a problem to solve. Type "I am present" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1010 is now activating divine timing in your life. There is something else you must be prepared for, and it is not external change, not sudden shifts, not even the unknown itself. It is this: the people around you may not understand what you are experiencing right now. And if you are not grounded in your awareness, their lack of understanding can begin to shake your certainty. Because naturally, you look for confirmation. You look for someone to say, "Yes, I see it too." You look for reassurance that what you feel is valid. You look for alignment in the voices around you. But what happens when that alignment is not there? What happens when you try to explain what you are sensing, and it does not land the same way? When your words feel difficult to express, when your clarity feels personal, when your awareness cannot be translated into something others immediately recognize. This is where many people begin to doubt themselves. Not because they are wrong, but because they are not understood. And that is the moment you must be careful. Because this season is not designed for collective validation. It is designed for individual alignment. You are not being guided based on what everyone else can see. You are being guided based on what you can feel. And that requires trust. There may be people around you who continue as if nothing has changed. They move in the same patterns, speak in the same ways, respond to situations in the same manner. And from the outside, it may look like you are the one who has shifted. And the truth is, you have. But not in a way that is wrong. In a way that is necessary. Because when you begin to align with something greater, you begin to see differently. You begin to interpret situations differently. You begin to respond differently. And the difference is not always understood by those who are still operating from a familiar perspective. They may question your decisions. They may not fully grasp why you are pulling back from certain things. They may not understand why you are choosing stillness over reaction, awareness over impulse, clarity over comfort. And if you are not careful, you will feel the pressure to explain yourself, to justify your actions, to make your internal clarity make sense to someone who is not experiencing what you are experiencing. But listen carefully. You are not required to explain what hath been revealed to you. Not everything that is clear to you will be clear to others at the same time. And that does not make it wrong. It makes it specific to your path. This is why comparison becomes dangerous in this phase. Because if you begin to look at others and measure your experience against theirs, you will lose connection with your own alignment. You will begin to question what you already recognized. You will start to second-guess your own awareness simply because it does not match what others are expressing. But your path is not meant to match theirs. Your timing is not meant to mirror theirs. Your awareness is not meant to depend on theirs. You are being guided in a way that is direct, in a way that is intentional, in a way that is specific to what is unfolding in your life right now, and that may require distance. Not necessarily physical distance, but internal distance. A space where you are not influenced by opinions that do not align with what you are sensing. A space where you are not pulled back into old ways of thinking simply because they are familiar to others. A space where you can remain grounded in what you know, even when it is not reflected back to you. This is not isolation. This is refinement. Because in this space, your clarity becomes stronger. Your trust becomes deeper. Your awareness becomes more stable. And you no longer depend on external confirmation to move forward. You begin to move with quiet certainty. You begin to act without needing validation. You begin to trust without needing agreement. And that is where true alignment is established. There may be moments where you feel alone in this understanding. Moments where you wish someone else could see exactly what you see, feel exactly what you feel, recognize exactly what you recognize. But those moments are temporary. Because eventually, what is being revealed to you will become visible to others. Eventually, what you understood early will become clear in hindsight. Eventually, what felt misunderstood will make sense. But you are not meant to wait for the moment. You are meant to move now, with what you already know, with what you already feel, with what has already been shown to you internally. Because delay often comes from seeking agreement, and agreement is not required for alignment. You are not alone in this, even if it feels that way at times. You are guided. You are supported. You are moving through this season with purpose, and the lack of understanding around you is not a barrier. It is simply a reminder that your awareness is ahead of your environment, and that is exactly where you are meant to be. Because in the next part, you will begin to see what all of this has been leading toward, the promise that waits on the other side of this moment, and why everything you have experienced is about to make sense in a way you did not expect. Type "I trust my path" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1111 is now strengthening your inner certainty. Now you must lift your vision beyond what you've been feeling, beyond what you've been navigating, beyond what has seemed uncertain or unclear. Because everything you have experienced up until this point, every shift, every delay, every moment of questioning, every subtle internal change, it has all been leading somewhere. It has not been random. It has not been scattered. It has not been without direction. There is a promise ahead of you, not a vague idea, not a distant hope, a real, tangible outcome that is already forming, even if you cannot fully see it yet. And this is where your perspective must extend, because if you only focus on what you have been going through, you will miss what you are moving toward. If you only measure this season by what felt uncomfortable, you will overlook what is being prepared. And if you stay anchored in what has been confusing, you will not fully recognize what is about to become clear. You are not just leaving something behind. You are stepping into something greater. Something that matches the version of you that has been forming through this entire process. Think about who you were before this shift began. Think about how you responded, how you perceive things, how you move through situations. And now, think about who you are becoming. The awareness you carry now. The discernment you have developed. The way you pause instead of react. Observe instead of assume. Trust instead of panic. That change was not accidental. It was preparation. Because what awaits you requires that version of you. It requires the clarity you now hold. It requires the steadiness you have been building. It requires the awareness you have been learning to trust. And without this preparation, you would not be able to sustain what is coming next. This is why the process felt the way it did. Not to make things difficult, but to make you ready. Because the promise ahead is not something temporary. It is not something fragile. It is something that will hold. Something that will align. Something that will bring a sense of stability that you have not experienced in the same way before. But stability is not built on comfort alone. It is built on understanding. And now, you are beginning to understand. You are beginning to see that everything had a role. Even the moments that felt unclear. Even the situations that did not go as expected. Even the times where you questioned whether anything was actually moving forward. It was all movement. Just not in the way you initially thought it would be. And now, as you stand at this point, something begins to shift internally. There is a quiet confidence starting to form. Not loud, not forced, but steady. A sense that something is aligning. A sense that you are no longer searching in the same way. A sense that you are moving toward something that feels right, even if you cannot fully describe it yet. That feeling is not imagination. That is recognition. Recognition that you are approaching what has been prepared for you. And when it begins to reveal itself, it will not feel chaotic. It will feel clear. It will not feel forced. It will feel natural. It will not feel like something you have to struggle to understand. It will make sense, because you will meet it with the awareness you now carry. This is the promise. Not that everything will suddenly become easy, but that everything will become aligned. And alignment changes everything. Because when you are aligned, decisions become clearer. When you are aligned, movement becomes smoother. When you are aligned, you no longer question every step. You begin to trust the direction. And that trust allows you to move forward without hesitation. This is what has been building. This is what has been forming beneath everything you have experienced. And now, you are close enough to feel it. Close enough to sense that something is about to shift into place. Close enough to recognize that this season is not ending in confusion, but in clarity. So do not lose focus now. Do not return to doubt now. Do not question what you have already come to understand. Because you are not at the beginning anymore. You are at the threshold. And what lies beyond this moment is not uncertainty. It is confirmation. Confirmation that everything you felt, everything you sensed, everything you trusted, it was leading you exactly where you were meant to be. And in the final part, you will receive the closing command from Archangel Michael, the instruction that will anchor everything you have heard and prepare you to stand firmly in what is about to unfold. Type "I receive the promise" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now sealing your path forward. Now this is where everything comes together. This is where the message is no longer just something you hear. It becomes something you carry. Because what Archangel Michael is speaking now is not guidance. It is not suggestion. It is not something to consider later. It is a command. Stand firm. Do not fear. And you must understand the weight of this moment. Because everything you have heard, everything you have felt, everything that has been revealed to you up until now, it has all been preparation for this exact instruction. This is not about what might happen. This is about who you must be when it happens. You must stand, not physically but internally. You must hold your ground in your awareness. You must remain steady in your perception. You must not allow external movement to disrupt your internal alignment. Because what is coming next will not test your strength, it will test your stability. And stability is not about resisting change. It is about remaining centered within it. There may be movement around you. There may be moments that feel unexpected. There may be shifts that require you to respond differently than you have in the past. But through all of it, you must remain anchored in what you now know. You are guided. You are protected. You are aligned. And nothing that is truly meant for you will require fear to enter your life. That is the truth you must hold on to. Because fear will still attempt to rise. Not because it has power, but because it has habit. It will try to revisit you in familiar ways. It will try to speak in the same tone it used before. It will try to make you question what you have already come to understand. But this time, you are not the same. This time, you are aware. This time, you recognize the difference between reaction and alignment. So when that moment comes, you do not move backward. You do not hesitate. You do not allow uncertainty to take control. You stand. You remain still internally, even if things are moving externally. You observe without absorbing. You respond without rushing. You trust without needing immediate explanation. Because standing firm is not passive. It is active awareness. It is the decision to remain aligned even when you could easily fall back into old patterns. It is the discipline of holding your clarity even when the environment around you is shifting. It is the strength to trust what has been revealed to you, even when it is not yet fully visible. This is what separates this moment from all the ones before it. You are no longer reacting unconsciously. You are choosing consciously. And that choice changes everything. Because when you stand firm, you do not interrupt what is unfolding for you. You allow it to complete. You allow it to align. You allow it to reveal itself fully without distortion. And when that happens, something powerful takes place. You see clearly, not partially, not with confusion, but fully. You recognize the purpose behind the shift. You understand why things had to change. You see how everything connected. And in that clarity, there is no fear. There is only confirmation. Confirmation that you were guided correctly. Confirmation that you trusted at the right time. Confirmation that you did not allow fear to pull you away from what was meant for you. This is the moment you have been prepared for. Not a moment of chaos, but a moment of recognition, where everything you have learned, everything you have practiced, everything you have come to understand, it all becomes real in your experience. And from that moment forward, you move differently. Not with hesitation, not with doubt, but with certainty. Because you have seen what happens when you remain aligned. You have experienced what happens when you trust instead of fear. You have proven to yourself that you can stand in the unknown without being shaken by it. And that changes how you approach everything that comes after. So hear this clearly, one final time. Do not fear what happens next. Not because nothing will change, but because you are ready for the change. Not because everything will be explained immediately, but because you have learned to trust before understanding. Not because fear will never appear again, but because it no longer has authority over you. Stand firm. Remain steady. Trust what has already been placed within you, because what is unfolding now is not against you. It is for you, and you are exactly where you need to be. Type "I stand firm" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1313 is now sealing your strength and protection. As you stand firm in this moment, understand this. Your obedience does not end with hearing this message. It continues through what you release into the mission that carries it forward. Every seed you sow becomes a torch in someone else's darkness, a river of truth reaching souls who are still waiting for their awakening. The Lord declares over you, "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over." And this is not a distant promise. It is alive in this very moment. I feel led to speak this directly. When you move through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description, you are stepping into divine alignment with this assignment, multiplying light beyond what your eyes can see. This is not support. This is participation in a heavenly harvest. The PayPal link is already placed in every video description, and the QR code remains positioned on your screen as an open invitation from this very moment. As you release, heaven responds. As you give, heaven multiplies. Act now and become part of what God is doing through this message.